Alright, so two lessons down. This is the third one, talking about sizing. This is really fully dependent on how you d decide to build your project, or if there's a different developer on the team or whatever, then you guys are going to make a decision. But um, it will make a huge difference on your art kind of pipeline. Now, I got made this little thing as a bit of a guide. This is sort of the way 2D fighters went before fucking Guilty Gear XRD came out, and then now fighting games that are 2D are actually 3D with awesome cel shading. Um, but you know, this got pretty big fast. So let's zoom in a little. Now down here, look at this Street Fighter 2. Oh yeah, there's Ryu. Um, he was about 95 pixels tall, and you can see he's got quite a lot of different colors on each part of him. The one on the right of that, roughly the same size as well. They're on very similar gaming systems, so it makes sense to keep them the same size. Look at this, Ken. Ken from Street Fighter Alpha 3. They changed the style up a lot. It's the same game series, but changed. I assume it's to help in many ways speed up the art process. So you can see that on the right here, they've got a more cell shaded style. So Ryu on the left has got all like kind of shading proper, more like trying to go more realistic. Whereas Ken on the right is very simple. He's got very small color options here. We got, say for example, we got bright red, light shade red, dark shade red, and then super dark red for outlines only, or potentially super dark spots. And then that sort of pattern flows onto everything else. I think this is the style that ended up winning out, and I would assume it's mostly to do with the amount of work involved in doing the animation. So having to animate a fully shaded friggin' leg with all sorts of colors all over it, and that's just a leg, would take ages. So this is cel shaded, definitely speeds things up for all those frames of the animation. Now that's about 95 pixels. So if you're going to make characters like old school SNES style fighter, then that's the size that you're probably looking at. And it's not too bad. There's some weird things. I'll talk about pros and cons of the sizes in a second. Now, next one up that I like to show is skip past Guilty Gear, because Guilty Gear was about the same size as the Street Fighter Alpha and Street Fighter 2. Guilty Gear, this is Guilty Gear Isuka. They went with a bigger resolution size for their characters, and you can see he's 114 pixels tall. And very similar to how that Ken is, just on a much grander scale. So you can look, I guess the bigger it is, the cleaner it looks. Here, that was around the PS2 era. PS3 era, we got, look at this. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but Persona 4 Arena character at 276 pixels tall, and you got BlazBlue next to it, 271 pixels tall. Very big compared to tiny little Street Fighter 2. Look at this, same sort of thing going on. We got very few colors, cel shaded kind of style. Just very big now. And you can see here as well. Cool. Now the pros and cons of each. Well, if you go smaller, like this little Ken, like I feel like Ryu is too much of an effort nowadays. If you go with this sort of Ken here, it's harder to draw things as if you were drawing normally in, say, Photoshop and stuff. So you're going to be working out you're going to be handpicking your pixels a lot more in making things readable, and it's going to take a lot more effort in that respect. However, cleaning up pixels is going to be a lot easier because there's just less to work with. So you have like translation issues, but you'll get through your animations a lot quicker. Now, I think that's why these guys went bigger. They could follow a more traditional animation process and draw their characters out nearly in full. The bigger it is, the closer it gets to just drawing your characters as if it was in Photoshop. And then, shading and stuff isn't too much work. I'll show you that later when we get to our pixel program. That's okay. The only problem is if you're trying to do nice pixel work, which I haven't done with my own character. Oh, too far in for Photoshop to handle it. All right. When you've got your line art stuff around all the contour lines of your character, try to not cluster them too much. There's all these various like good guides kind of pixel rules where you're trying to avoid certain edges and jaggy stuff. And the bigger your character is that you've hand drawn closer to drawing in Photoshop, the more likely you'll have to go around the edges of all your line art and probably just clean out pixels that you don't need. So what I find is between the two styles of like really big versus quite small is you can get a lot done quicker once you get started with the little style. It's easier to clean, but shading and coloring and getting your character to look more closer to your original design is heaps easier in the big one, but you'll spend a lot more time cleaning up just the line art. The shading's easy enough. I'll let you decide what size you want to go. Yeah, that's totally your problem. All right. So once you pick the size, the next step is let's get a base kind of fighter stance into your pixel program because that's going to help you work out all your sizings and everything for all your animations. So that's what next lesson is going to be. Moving from either paper or Photoshop or something like that into your pixel program. All right. See you next time.